We have a wonderful occasion this morning, celebrating the 41st year of the Community Development Block Grant Program in Baltimore City. It's really a celebration. We have so many folks here who have been recipients, so many positive outcomes in the city, and still a long way to go. We're celebrating the awards in this particular year, and we're very, very fortunate. Madam Mayor, good morning. Good morning. I'd like to thank you and Council President Young, who's here this morning. Thank you, Council President. And our councilman from the 7th District, who we've all had occasions to work with over the years for so long, and we're so happy to share the podium with, Leon Pinkett. And Councilman Bullock from the 9th District. We are also very fortunate to have an outstanding council this year. So many new people, in addition to Leon, coming on board to really make a difference in the city. So Councilman Bullock, it's great to share the podium with you. And now there are so many people who have benefited, and so many neighborhoods that have benefited. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Michael Braverman. Mayor Pugh has asked me to be our housing commissioner. I'm a housing commissioner in Baltimore City. Now, there are so many people here who have benefited from the Community Development Block Grant Program. And there are so many people to thank, state and federally, for helping us implement that program. But we can't literally have everybody speak or even go through everybody's names, as it would take the whole morning. So we're going to have Johnette Richardson from Baltimore, from Benny here, telling us a little bit about the wonderful things that the Community Development Block Grant Program has been able to do in her neighborhood, and I'm going to toot her horn a little bit too. And same for Anthony Presley, who is our host here at Druid Heights CDC. So those two, thank you, Anthony. But just to get a sense that representing this larger group, if you're here and you have either now in 19 or in the past received an award from the Community Development Block Grant Program, please raise your hand. Right? So, I mean, to just get a sense of the city, east and west, north and south, all the great activities that the Block Grant Program has been able to support, and so many of you represented here. So we hope Jeanette and Anthony do a great job speaking for all of us. I want to just start by saying this program has resulted in more than $1 billion of awards in federal grants to our nonprofit partners and our city agencies. We probably have some city agencies represented in the room as well. Some of the great work that gets done in the city by our city agencies are also the kinds of activities that are eligible and supported by CDBG. So Anthony, some of the things that Anthony might tell us, so I'm going to toot his horn a little bit. He's going to be speaking to us, and for example, the range of activities that CDBG funds. There's adult learning classes going on right here in the floor above us. People are earning their GEDs and going on to better jobs and improved lives because of CDBG. There are 35 people that have gone through HUD certified housing counseling that's going on here, and now they're under contract to purchase a home, a city home, because of CDBG. Thank you, Anthony, and thanks to the program. So just again to toot Anthony's horn, representative of the program, that he and his team have been able, using CDBG support, to bring in new partners, such as the University of Maryland School of Social Work, the CarMax Foundation, or Home Depot, and Kaboom. Kaboom worked with community volunteers right here in this neighborhood to build the beautiful playground that you might have seen behind the building when you came in. There are so many wonderful success stories, so many people in the room that could talk about them. You all may know that at least 70% of all CDBG funds are used for activities that benefit low to moderate income people. And at its core, CDBG is a housing and urban development program, that's our federal partners at HUD, designed to give local jurisdictions power to distribute federal funds directly to nonprofit and public agencies that support housing and public service programs. CDBG's primary objective is to develop viable communities by providing low to moderate income families with decent, affordable housing and to expand local economic opportunities. So we're very fortunate to have had about $19 million in CDBG funds to distribute in this year to get those outcomes in Baltimore City. So many things can happen as a result of those. CDBG is relatively unknown. For instance, I could keep everybody here till 4 p.m. talking about this. I'm not going to do that, right? We're just going to highlight a couple of things. We're going to get the mayor up here, okay, on the program. But right upstairs, there are 15 people, right? There will be, about 4 o'clock today, 15 young people from the community getting free harp lessons from the Peabody Conservatory of Music. That's something Anthony and his team were able to secure using the incredible partnership and leveraging CDBG funds. That's something to celebrate today, right? Because it's not often a story that's told. The Druid Heights CDC has gotten an award of CDBG of $375,000 this year, right? To continue their work in re-entry services, housing, youth education, housing counseling, and other programs on the West Side. Johnette and her team at Bel Air Edison's Neighborhood Inc., also known as Benny, will receive $100,000 to do even more home ownership counseling, foreclosure intervention services, community organizing, small business development, all those efforts to strengthen the Bel Air Edison neighborhood on the city's east side. With, welcome to Carol Payne and to Charlie Hong, our federal partners. Thank you so much. So if you don't know Benny, I'm just going to tell you that Johnette's going to tell you a little bit about it. I'm going to toot her horn. It's a small group, but it's got a mighty footprint. With CDBG support, this year alone, they've assisted more than 100 small businesses in their community and with facade improvements, marketing, promotions, business planning. There's a fantastic soul food kitchen on Bel Air Road that you have to try. That's a result of their efforts in CDBG funds. Johnette and her team have mobilized residents, gotten them involved in block projects, socials, cleanups, meetings, and other community-wide efforts such as porch farmer programs, block beautifications. Johnette, like many of the recipients, is a hurricane of activities that benefit our city, and we are so fortunate to have a program and federal partners that can get money into Baltimore and onto this street to support Johnette, Anthony, and all of you out there. This is just representative. So just to mention, Benny, with their HUD certified housing counseling, they counseled 917 families last year. And over the life of the CDG program, Benny's educated nearly 10,000 families. That's what this program does. So I got to leave them something to tell you, okay, and something for the mayor to say, right? So I just want to say that there's, all told, this year's more than 50 organizations getting funding. It's a wide range of activities. It's employment, job training, senior services, lead abatement, literacy, homeownership assistance, reentry services, homeless assistance, residential unit rehab, and many others, right? It's an effort to provide critical services and activities that foster healthy communities. So we want to let you know it's a federal program that's competitive. We accept applications once a year. At the end of the day, we have these wonderful federal partners you'll hear from, but everybody in this room that has gotten involved with CDBG know that there's some heavy lifting every year that gets done by Shama Ganachari and by Steve James. Are they here? Can you guys, like, Shama here too? Can you guys raise your hands? There's Shama way back there, okay? So we are very grateful for all our partners. And at this point, I want to give the mayor an opportunity to speak. I want to say, Mayor, that this is the program that speaks to exactly what are among your primary community development objectives, which is in our middle markets, where so much of the wealth of our citizens are tied up, doing the work that can stabilize that middle markets and ensure that we continue that home ownership base and grow our home ownership in middle markets to protect our neighborhoods, like Benny as an example. But also to do the work that you support to leverage new investment into our distressed neighborhoods that haven't seen investment in a long time, and to do this work, Mayor, which I know is among your principal goals, by partnering with all these wonderful organizations that live here, work here, and are doing the heavy lifting every day to make their neighborhoods better. So with that, Mayor, we'd welcome you up to the podium. Thank you so much.
Let me just say how important this work is, and I think I said this when I first while I was campaigning and when I got elected. What has happened heretofore in our city is that we have not invested like we should in neighborhoods. And people want to call them poor neighborhoods. I call them underinvested neighborhoods, because we have a tendency to forget that there are people who bought homes, live in these neighborhoods, been here for 20, 30, and 40 years, and they just expect and should have the kind of investment that these kinds of programs bring to communities. So I'm really excited about the work that's going on in Druid Heights and in Bel Air Edison and all across the city, because one of the things that we have to show people in this city is that we're bringing about the change that they deserve. You know, when I look out on the corridors, I look forward to the day when I'm riding up and down Druid Hill and coming back up McCullough, that every house that is boarded up is opened up and somebody's living there, that we've created a home for somebody in these neighborhoods. These are beautiful structures, and in some cases we've neglected them so long till we can't really do anything but take them down. But I can tell you, a park is certainly better than a boarded up neighborhood in your community. And you know, we talk about affordable housing, but what Michael mentioned was also middle neighborhoods. This is one of those middle neighborhoods, connected to so many other communities in our city. You know, you can almost walk to the park, one of the most beautiful parks in the city, or you can ride your bike or run like I do. Or run. Right. Connected to Reservoir Hill and Bolton Hill. This is Druid Hill, Bel Air Edison. These are beautiful neighborhoods, you all. And the work that you do and the money that you get are to leverage additional investment. You know, last night I was up in Park Heights, and I said to the individuals up there, we've changed out the leadership in Park Heights, because for decades, almost a decade, we've been getting slots impact money. But I don't see change in Park Heights. Because what happens is, and people don't understand this, is that when you're coming, if you decide you don't want to get on the Beltway, you come down Reisterstown, you come down Park Heights Avenue, you empty into Druid Hill Avenue, and you're coming back up McCullough when you're going home. This is the impression that people are getting of our city. And now when you're coming from New York and you look out the window, and you look to the south, you see what the commitment of Johns Hopkins and EBDI and the city has made a difference in what we see. We no longer just see boarded up homes. We see a community up and coming. We want to see the same thing when we're riding through our neighborhoods, from Hilton to Milton, from the top of Druid Hill Avenue to the bottom. I tell people, I said, I love the investment that we made in downtown neighborhoods. But guess what? And if you've not read Comeback Cities, I urge you to do it. Because when that book was written, it talked about New York City. And one of the things that Koch said when he was mayor, you can invest all you want in downtown, but if you're not invested in neighborhoods, what is happening in neighborhoods will spill over into your downtown communities. And this really is about job creation and economic development. We can put people to work in our city on these projects, rebuilding our neighborhoods, having programs like the ones that are being held here in our communities, people who want to be connected. The best violence reduction initiative is giving somebody a job. And so while every day I'm focused on reducing violence in our communities, because every city, every part of this city deserves a safe neighborhood, I know it's how we collectively work together. I tell folks, I don't just ride up Pennsylvania Avenue. I get out. I talk to people. And at the last sentence of whatever they have to say, regardless of their condition, is I want a job. And so to the extent that we continue to create jobs and create opportunities in our city, and I can tell you we're doing that. The Office of Employment no longer waits for you to come into their office. They're walking up and down your streets, asking people if we can help you. And I said to the Office of Employment Development, what I want you to do next is I want you to have mobile pads when you're walking those streets and having people fill out applications when we see you, because we need to help people get to work. I said to you all that we would create mobile units to go around in neighborhoods and get people working. We've got one on the street. We'll have another one March or April on the streets of our city. We got to get people working. The opioid crisis is major in this city. And so we will open up the first stabilization center in the state of Maryland. And y'all, please don't be fooled. This problem is not just Baltimore City's problem. This is the county's problem, this is the state's problem, this is the nation's problem, this is a worldwide problem. But we have a responsibility to fix our problem. And so we are committed to doing that. We want you to stay in these neighborhoods. We need you to stay in these neighborhoods. We've got to grow our population. So I was so happy when I was down in University of Maryland with the president, talking about the investment in 7 neighborhoods where they have put together $18,250 in investment grants for people to move in neighborhoods. And we got to think about that here. What are we doing to make sure that it happens? Because I can tell you there's so many incentives that people don't even know about. Live Baltimore. Live near where you work. $5,000 just with Live Baltimore. You know, when we got through calculating what that initiative down there means, it means almost $30,000 for individuals to live in 7 neighborhoods in this city that bump up against this neighborhood. So who are our partners in these areas? How are we asking these employers to contribute to the lifeblood of our city? And that's investing in home ownership in our city. And I'm telling you, there is so much that we can do, but it's how we do it together. When I did call to actions early on in this city, what I said to folks, we can't change this by ourselves. We survey, we walk in our call to actions, thanks to the Mediation Center, who trained individuals. I said, if I can go to 3-hour trainings to know how to walk and talk to people in the neighborhoods, anybody can. Get into the action. Don't sit on the sidelines and complain about what's not happening. Get in the action and help make it happen. And so we walked through Gilmore Homes. And you know what people said, especially the folks in the high-rise part, in the walkway, as my HABC director would say, the walk-ups. What they said is, it's dangerous. We don't feel safe here. So what our head of the Housing Authority of Baltimore did, Janet Abrams, she focused on, we're going to tear it down. And people want to question why? Because it's not safe. And again, tearing down houses and making sure that you put something in that neighborhood and community is essential to this administration. Don't think that we're not going to do things without responsibility, because I feel responsible for every single individual who lives in this city, every business that operates in the city, and more importantly, programs like this that will make a difference. So I ask you all to continue to work with us, support us, and more importantly, support your council people, the president of the city council, our department heads. I tell people, think out the box. And everything for me is urgent. And I said this to my cabinet this morning. I operate with a sense of urgency. I need every single individual who works for this city to understand the importance of that, because that's what people pay taxes for. They deserve the service. You deserve the investment. We're not doing you a favor. We're helping because we should be helping. And we want this to be the best. We want our city to be the best city in America. We want our city to be the safest city in America. Out of 52 different cities around the world, the New York Times Baltimore City listed 15 of cities that people need to visit. Thank you all for this opportunity. I look forward to continuing to work with you all.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much. Well, I'm going to ask Council President Jack Young to come up, somebody everybody in this room knows, cares about everything that goes on in this city. And I mean everything, from the big picture policy issues down to whether there is an assemblage of organic debris in front of somebody's house on a particular block. And I have that email from yesterday if anyone wants to check. With that said, Council President, we'd love to have a few words from you. Thank you so much.
Good morning to everyone. Good morning, everyone. Well, Michael definitely didn't leave, and the mayor didn't leave me anything to say, so I'm not going to leave anything for my council members to say either. But I'm happy to be joined by the mayor, Councilman Pinkett, and Councilman Bullock. Michael, I want to thank you for your leadership and your team in housing, because you get it. You know, this is your money. It's not our money. This is your money. And I just want to thank every organization in here for doing what you do for such a little bit of money on the salary side. So I just want to thank you guys, because you're making a great difference in the city of Baltimore by the work that you do. I think about the ex-offender programs and the ex-offender population that's coming back into our communities with no skills because they have not been given any while they're being rehabilitated. And we need to work with our state government to make sure that when they send these returning citizens back to our communities, that they're sending them back equipped, being ready to go into the job market to get jobs. And that's something that my mayor and I talk about constantly, how we can make sure that we have apprenticeship programs, training programs, and drug treatment programs for treatment on demand for our citizens here in the city of Baltimore. And don't be fooled, people. Our city is the engine that runs this state. If the city goes down, it drags the state with it. And if you look at Baltimore City, we're centrally located. We have 95, we have 83. We're close to the airport. At one time that we owned, it was Friendship Airport. Now it belongs to the state. This city, we have the Penn Station. I mean, this city can only get better. And we only can get better by all of us in this room working together. Parents talking to their children and letting them know the effects of what they're doing with the reputation of the city of Baltimore, not only in the state, but around the country. We want to be known for rebuilding and rebranding Baltimore. And I finally have a partner that I can work with. I have a council that I can work with, that we can be partners and moving this city forward and not bickering back and forth, but making sure that we're doing the hard work to make this city move forward. And again, I want to thank the mayor. I want to thank all of you for the work that you do, because the work that you do make our job much easier. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Council President. I think we're going to return to this theme, but what Council President highlighted is what we're really here for, and why we all asked you all here is to celebrate the work that you do. Because fundamentally what this program is about putting gas in your tank. Everyone that's in this room that does the heavy lifting every day. This is a great aspect of the CDBG program, to get funds directly to you, the folks in this room that are running these fantastic eligible activities in the city of Baltimore, and have been. Some folks here, anybody in this room receiving CDBG fund and doing this heavy lifting for at least 10 years? Anybody? Look at, I mean, that great work has been carried on as a legacy. So thank you, Jack, as highlighting that. Thank you to those folks who continue to do that work every day. And as Jack mentioned, we have a great council. We really do, and the council is only getting better. And that's with that said, yeah, I'm going to call Leon Pinkett up to give us a few words, and then we'll call the best councilman up. No, just kidding. Let Leon Pinkett up first.
Thank you, and I welcome everyone except Michael to the 7th District. But you know, after following Michael and the mayor and council president, I feel like the only thing left for me to do is to help stack the chairs. Anthony, you got a broom? Maybe I can help sweep up because there's not much left to say. But it's kind of funny as I was sitting there watching, you know, looking out over all of these agencies and organizations that have done so much work in our city. I kind of felt like I was on an episode or one of Oprah Winfrey's shows, like, you got a grant, and you got a grant, and you got a grant. But But this is a representation of all of the good work that you've done on behalf of constituents throughout our city. Many don't know, but the CDBG funding is one of the longest running programs that HUD has. And it's one of the most critical programs that our federal government has. And I think it's most critical because, and the diversity in this room is a proof of it, is the flexibility of the dollars. Too often the money that's available to our community is so restricted that it's difficult to do some of the programming that our communities need. These are the only types of dollars that you can have a HARP program out of, and then also have an affordable housing program out of. And so it's important for us to value these programs, but it's also important for us to protect them, especially with what's happening in Washington. Programs like these are constantly under threat, and we've collectively got to fight to make certain that we assure that these dollars continue to get to the communities that so need their help. Earlier, Michael asked me to say something inspiring, and I don't know why he turned to me to do that. Because if I was to say something inspiring, I actually would take the mic off from in front of me and then hand it to everyone that's in this audience. Because you are the ones that really are inspiring great things that are happening in our community. And my hope is that that you take these grants that you're receiving, and it's just an acknowledgement of the good work that you're already doing, and that you continue to serve our citizens, serve our communities in the excellent way that you've done for so many years. And so thank you and welcome again to the 7th.
See, Leon did say something inspiring. Thank you, Councilman Pinkett. And Councilman Bullock, would you please come up and give us a few words? Thank you so much. It is actually a privilege to serve with Councilman Bullock, who is chair of our housing committee. So it's I'm gonna have to suck up a little bit.
Well, good morning, everyone, and it will be very few words. I'm happy to be here today with some of our colleagues, my colleague in the 7th District. One of the things we recognize in Baltimore, it's not about these artificial lines of boundaries, but what do we do in terms of West Baltimore? What do we do as Baltimore City as a whole? Our mayor has a great vision as it relates to community development, and I think she made a great decision in terms of Commissioner Braverman. And Council President Jack Young, I think he made a great decision in terms of making me the chair of the Housing Committee. But I'll say this. One of the things that Councilman Pinkett also referenced was the diversity in this room, and even the longevity of the Community Development Block Grant Program. Part of the reason why it has the longevity that it has over 40 plus years is that even from a geographical diversity, even from partisan lines, we recognize the value that this has in terms of community development. And so oftentimes we don't really break down what do we mean by community development. Oftentimes, we're only thinking about the built environment. We're thinking about structures. We're oftentimes saying it's either a people-based strategy or a place-based strategy. But with CDBG funds, we're talking about both. We're talking about investing in people. We're talking about the built environment. And all of that is important if we're talking about the future of Baltimore City. And I see the future as being quite bright. It's also wonderful to look around this room and see so many partners. As someone who's been a neighborhood association president and now president of a community development corporation, seeing all the partners who are in this room who are doing the heavy lifting. There was a mention of these middle market neighborhoods and those neighborhoods that just need a little bit of love to get over that hump. Some of our neighborhoods that are struggling and need to have that infusion of resources and attention. And some of our neighborhoods that we want to make sure that we maintain the viability and vitality of those neighborhoods. So I'm really happy to be here as a partner with all of our colleagues who are doing the heavy lifting, and most importantly, you who are in this audience, the people who have had their hands at the plow for quite some time. So I'm happy to be here. I see the future as being bright, and I look forward to working with everyone in this room to make sure we've been a better Baltimore in the future. God bless you all.
Thank you, Councilman. And this is, of course, one of the reasons we wanted to do this event, because all the wonderful things that CDBG has been about over the years and is about in the years coming forward, it's really an unsung story in Baltimore City. Folks really don't understand all the different things that CDBG does that have been brought out in the course of this discussion, and then we'll hear a lot more from Anthony and Johnette. But at the end of the day, it is a program from the Department of Housing and Urban Development from the federal government. And we are very lucky not just to have our great city council, our mayor, and our partners here, but to have local partners at HUD that really understand what this program is about how it could benefit this city, and about how to work with us to maximize the outcomes in Baltimore City. We really are fortunate to have Carol Payne at HUD. Thank you so much, Carol, for your work. And again, and Charlie Hom, again, everyone here knows him, but again, another unsung hero of community development in Baltimore City. And that's a little bit of the theme today, is to bring out into the open this great program and the great people in this room that make it happen. But with that said, it would not be a complete day without some remarks from our colleagues at HUD that make this possible. So Charlie, would you be so kind as to give some remarks? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I grew up in this city, except for a year of graduate school out at Berkeley and then 3 years in the Army. I've lived in the city of Baltimore my whole adult life, and I didn't know anything about the city until I came to HUD. I was hired by HUD in 1980. I've been doing basically the same job in the same place, working with the same folks, not just in Baltimore, but throughout the state for almost 40 years. It's been one of the great joys of my life to be part of delivering all of the things that we can deliver to the people in the city of Baltimore through Block Grant. Now, we have other programs. We have the home program, and we have homeless programs, and we have programs that are targeted for persons with HIV/AIDS. But Block Grant is the oldest of our grant programs in HUD, and it is a tough old bird. It has been under assault over the years. Folks want to change the formulas. Folks want to cut the amount of money that go to the cities, put more money in the rural areas. And most recently, an administration wanted to zero out the Block Grant program. But it's a tough old bird. If you look at the, we don't know what the 2018 final budget will be, which is a very frustrating thing, being into the fourth month of FY 2018. We went through the same thing last year. But the budget bills that have come out of both of the houses of Congress, Block Grant is still there. So that is, it's a testimony to what the program has meant nationally. It touches practically every county in the country. There are over 1,100 local governments and counties that receive Block Grant directly from HUD. And there are many, many other grantees in non-entitlement areas, rural areas, which receive Block Grant money through the state. I'm not sure how many people know that. I've been to some of the seen some of the most amazing projects throughout the state through the state Block Grant program. There's a project, a domestic violence center in Oakland and Garrett County. You know, that's way, way out there, and pretty conservative. The folks in that county worked for about 15 years to raise money for a domestic violence center, and they raised about $400,000. And they needed about another $800,000 to get it built. And they applied to the state of Maryland, and they got enough Block Grant money to build that center. And I don't know if you ask those folks, do you really want, you want the federal government interfering in your community? Well, no, of course not. You want to get back to the domestic violence center? No, it's ours. And it is theirs because they wanted it, they planned it, they got their local government to apply for it, they convinced the state to fund it. The beauty of the Block Grant program is that it is really in the hands of our grantees. The regulations, although serious, are broad. And permit a wide variety of things that can be done with block grant. And one thing that is you can do with block grant that the city has done over the decades is there's something called the Section 108 program, loan guarantee program, where you can get big chunks of capital money because you're a block grant grantee. Now you have to pay the loan back. But some amazing things have been done with those funds in the city of Baltimore, the home ownership zone, in Sandtown, Winchester, Montgomery Park. The casino actually is on land that was acquired and improved with block grant money, with 108 money, and of course EBDI received over $20 million in 108 to get that started. I'm one of 43 directors of community planning and development throughout the country. This is a program that's administered by HUD on a local basis, not through headquarters directly, but through the localities. We have relationships with our grantees throughout the state. And of course, they're the ones that decide, they and their city councils, their mayors, their county executives decide what should be done with those funds. But the pattern that we see everywhere in the country is very much like the pattern we see here. There are just a few people in HUD who deal with the block grant program, and then, say in the city of Baltimore, there's a cadre of experts who try to figure out how to use the money, and then they try to figure out how to write the contracts, and then they try to figure out whether you're spending the money the way the rules say. But the great majority of the work, the actual work, is done by nonprofits, and you're the ones that the citizens should thank for the success of the block grant program. You are, even though you are public servants, you may not work for a government, but you are a public servant, and you've done such a wonderful job over the last 40 plus years, and there's a lot of continuity here. The first year I was with HUD, I sat down and learned more about the city of Baltimore in an hour than I knew through my whole life, sitting down talking to Vinnie Quayle, who many of you know or remember or have heard of at St. Ambrose. Folks like that are jewels. They're gems that should be polished and maintained, and we hope that the block grant program will survive and will continue to make it possible for you to do the wonderful things that you are currently doing for the citizens of Baltimore. I do want to introduce someone, if she'll wave her hand, please. This is Amy Darrow, Amy Harmon Darrow, and she is currently the what we call the CPD lead for our office with regard to the city. I have 4 staff now. All of them, the 3 of them have had that job over the years at one time or another. And the 4th person on my staff is Susan Taylor. And she, I said, Susan, you want to come here today? And she said, I have work to do. I can't come. But I hope to be able to take back to her your warm feelings for the wonderful work she did for so many years at the city. She is as are all of the folks who work, the 4 people who work for me, are committed, dedicated, and serious about the importance of block grant and making sure that it works throughout the state. I do want to stop, right? Thank you. I will say just one more quick thing. As we drove up here, I was thinking of my father. My father was a employee of the Department of Rec and Parks, and he was the director of the Recreation Center in the Mount Royal Elementary School for many, many, many years. And now I'm a public servant. My daughter has the potential of being a public servant. She is one of the final candidates for the position of head of the dance department at School for the Arts. And so we do hope she does that. I hope she's selected and she chooses to come back from Germany, but we will see. I'm reluctant to stop because I was trained as a teacher, and I can talk about anything for 50 minutes, but it's hard for me to talk about anything for less. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie. Charlie has 41 years of history, too, about the program, and we're all going to be here. Thank you so much. Truthfully, it's our partners at HUD, that help us get the money out the door to you, and it's their dedication to this program that allows all of you to do the work that you do. So, again, thank you so much to our partners at HUD. Now, there's a reason you're probably wondering, but there's a reason why we saved Johnette towards the end, because nobody wants to go after her, so we're going to make Anthony do that. So, Johnette, could you please come up and say a few words on behalf? We can't ask everybody here to speak on behalf of all the great programs, but we've asked Johnette and Anthony to do so, sort of representative. Johnette, thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I think I messed something up here. I want to first say thank you to Mayor Pugh, Council President Jack Young, Commissioner Braverman, Councilman Leon Pinkett, Councilman Bullock, and all of our elected officials, and everyone here today. I want to thank you for this opportunity to stand before you and talk a bit about the CDBG program in Bel Air Edison. So 26 years ago, our community had experienced some real estate turnover, which led to some instability in our market. So we experienced white flight in the 80s and 90s, predatory lending in the 90s and 2000s that led to the big foreclosure crisis of 2007 and 8. If you can think of a real estate scandal, our community had experienced it. Simultaneously, it should be noted that we have historically had very high homeownership rates. So in the 80s and 90s, we were at 70% homeowners. And the leadership in our community felt committed to the fact that it doesn't matter who our new neighbors were that were moving in, we wanted them to move in as homeowners. And so through workshops and trainings, we were able to greet these new home buyers we were able to greet these new people moving into our communities as home buyers. So despite the change in demographics, our homeownership rate remained strong. How were we able to do that? One of the ways was through the early partnership with this department. We began our relationship with CDBG in the late 80s, early 90s, and from that day to this, we've been able to educate nearly 10,000 families through homeownership counseling classes and individual sessions. We've recruited and supported more than 200 businesses along Bel Air Road and Erdman Avenue. We've been able to outreach to our neighbors through newspapers and printed flyers. We've organized block cleanups and block beautification projects that have leveraged over $100,000 in investments. We're stronger today, and we owe that to the leadership of this department and to the leadership of this city. I want to share a quick story about Commissioner Braverman. City Council President Jack Young was able to organize a meeting with the three of us, and we were sitting down, and I was telling him about an idea that we were thinking of doing to do some more foreclosure intervention in our neighborhood. And I said, man, Commissioner Braverman, I have applied to this funder. We asked for X number of dollars. We didn't get everything. We're just a little bit of money short. And he says, Johnette, I want to turn the couches over, shake out the cushions, and find this money for you. You just reach out to Stacy Freed, and we're going to make this happen for you. I'm sharing that story to say this. This leadership that we have today in the city, from our mayor to our council president to our commissioner over housing, They want to work with us. They want to be creative. It's not about counting widgets, but it's about coming up with programming and ideas that are going to change the lives of the people who live in this city. And it's such a pleasure to work with each and every one of you. So I have a million thank yous. I want to say thank you to you all from Miss Carter, who was told by her landlord that she'd have to leave her home that she'd been renting from him for 10 years because he was losing the home to foreclosure. And she really loved this home because in Bel Air Edison, there are a handful of homes that have, I keep messing these mics up. I'm sorry, Fox 45 and 13. I'm sorry. But she loved this home because there are a handful of homes in the neighborhood that have the kitchen in the basement, and for some reason, she absolutely loved that feature of her home. She came to our office, we were able to work with her, and she ended up buying a home in our neighborhood 2 blocks from the home she rented for a decade. Same layout as the home she rented, and she never, ever, ever thought that she could be a homeowner. But we helped her do that, and it's through the help of this program. I want to say thank you from Mr. Johnson. Now, I'm sorry, Mayor, but he is the mayor of Longview Avenue. And he organizes his neighbors. They organize 1 million cleanups, and they've organized these block beautification projects. And they've been planting flowers and installing lighting and doing all of these creative things on their blocks. And we're able to do that through our organizing work. So I want to say thank you from him. Thank you from Michelle of Shell's Kitchen. Commissioner Braverman talked about her earlier, but this woman was cooking in her home forever and never thought that she could actually have her own business. We worked with her. We found her a location along Bel Air Road. And so if you're ever in my neck of the woods, please stop by 3436 Bel Air Road and support Shell's Kitchen because the food is fantastic. I just really could go on and on and on and on, but we've been able to provide so much help and so much support in our neighborhood through this program. So thank you for the last 41 years. Bel Air Edison and this entire city needs you for many, many more. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnette, and thank you for bringing up those names of those individuals that have been helped so we can really begin to understand what the program does. With that, Anthony, you'll be our last speaker. You're our host. Thank you so much for hosting us today and for all the great work that you and those EDs in the past have been able to accomplish at Druid Heights CDC. So you see some here.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is my pleasure to welcome you here. If anybody's been here before, welcome back to a new day. And you probably noticed a little change. How do you like the way we look around here? You like the change? This was old Fire Station 25. And back a part of the community's historic history, this was a segregated fire station. This is where Baltimore's black firemen had to report. And now, that's why we have the red doors around here. But now it's the community center, and with the help of this wonderful mayor and Mr. Braverman and all of you in leadership, we are able to continue serving the community. So thank you. And I'm going to do my own applause. You can help me. Yay. And I call her Miss Curl. I mean, that's just all I say. But for her to be here, this lady has been so helpful to this organization over the years. And I don't know, I think all of you should know who she is, but if you don't, let me say that's Miss Curl, all right, from HUD. All right. But good morning to you all. I thank God for this beautiful day, and I thank you for I thank him for having his hands on this community. I really thank God for that. I thank the mayor for her presence and her hands-on approach to communities. I think the mayor's in about 50 neighborhoods a day, and we can open an office here for you anytime you want to come. Councilman Braverman, this man, you know, he's so accessible. I'm sorry, Commissioner. Commissioner, I didn't call you a councilman, sir. But Commissioner Braverman, he's so available. And I like that as a commissioner. And of course, the president and our councilman who works with us on everything we need to do. He helped us get that playground up around the corner. And a point of personal privilege, Councilman Bullock is my councilman for my community where I live. But I wanted to just thank everybody. And first, I stand here on the support of so many people, but especially our board. And I am proud, and I'll definitely can't wait to get to the benefits of our CDBG program. But it's been carried by the board, and we have a very fine board, and I'll just quickly introduce them. Hold your applause to the end, and then I'll signal you win. But the president of our board is Mr. Rick Edwards. He's a community resident. This man has just hands-on with the community. He is just, you know, he's turned the vacant lot at 1922-24 where there used to be so much trash. He put a design in it, you know, and now nobody puts trash there anymore. President of the board. Dr. Kevin Daniels is a professor at Morgan State University, has served on our board for more than 5 years, I think, and is also a pastor in the community. He grew up in this community, and he takes this community very seriously, so I gotta stay on point. Miss Lavetta Gardner is the mayor of Lawrence Street. Sorry, Madam Mayor, but that's another mayor. She's the mayor of Lawrence Street. She gives the best and the biggest block parties in the community with horseback riding, 200 Bibles to children, food, and everything. That's Miss Lavetta Gardner. So when it's time to applause, make sure and do a real loud one for her. Thank you. Dr. Nelson is our newest member of the board, and he's a medical doctor, so if anybody have any heart trouble or anything, that's Dr. Nelson, and he's the new member. Miss Dr. Rodwell is, I think everybody already know him. Yeah, okay, so y'all, without introduction, but he is definitely a resident in the community, a supporter of the community, and one who I go to for advice. The founder of this organization, as you see in the name of the community, was the Community Association was founded by Miss Maggie Quill, who lived to be 99 years old. I went to her funeral. She used to drive her car down the middle of Druid Hill Avenue without paying attention to the lines in the street. But she turned everything over to Mrs. Jacqueline Cornish, who is the founder of the Community Development Corporation. Yes. Stan and women. Okay. Y'all just have to applaud. All right, and one more. We have a 13-member board, but these are the ones who are here today, and you all know this one, it won't need much introduction. Larry Young, he's our media man, and he's also a member of our board, so you know we got a voice when we need one. Senator Larry Young, everybody. All right, now clap for my board. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. The Community Development Block Grant Funds has helped this community organization get a grip on the blight, the despair, dilapidation, and things like that in the community, and to bring hope to the community. And if you could remember anything from my perspective, it's validation and leverage. So the CDBG funding has allowed us to validate to other funders what we do, and then leverage it for even more support. So, you know, with that, we've been able to do a whole lot of things. We have been able to do after school, where it happens here every day for 35 kids. We feed them a lunch through the Maryland Food Bank as a leverage. We have Peabody coming in twice a week to teach harp lessons, and they just donated a piano down the hall, so soon we'll be doing piano lessons for the children in the community. They performed in the library, so that's one of the programs. We have summer camp for more than 100 kids in the summer, and we're able to employ 25 of Baltimore City youth work employees through our summer camp. We have senior housing at Charles Uncle Senior Plaza, 47 units for seniors. And a lot of these seniors used to live in this community. When we tore down when the city tore down the 2100 block. That's right, we tore down the 2100 block of Eddy Street. A lot of those residents were able to move into the Charles Uncle Senior Plaza. And if you want to see fancy living for seniors, 607 Pennsylvania Avenue. We have 21 units of transitional housing for families who have come back to the community from shelters down the street at 1711. It's HUD's, their subsidized housing. for people in the community who need some transition, 2-3 years to get back on their feet and move out on their own. We have housing for returning citizens, men and women who have come home from incarceration that we need to help find jobs and get on their feet. We have been able to provide them with housing. Don't ask me how, but we do it. We have a first-time home buyers class in this room every month where at least 40 people are in attendance. That's about 480 people a year. And out of that, we have right now 35 people ready on contract to buy homes in Baltimore City. Yay! And in leveraging, we have Chick-fil-A restaurant feeding breakfast at all of these classes for free. So that's leveraging. We also have our monthly community meetings. We have GED and computer literacy upstairs. We take what we get and multiply it through our leveraging skills. And more importantly, we remind ourselves every day that we work for the community. We were started by the community. I'm here because of the community. We still have people, some of the seniors coming to our community meeting, they started this thing, and they will still say, how much money you have in the till? And I need to be able to answer that. You know what I mean? I need to be able to answer those seniors because we work for them. And when I say we work, if you would just give me, and I'm only 1 more minute, I'd like an opportunity to introduce our staff and to introduce some of the people that's benefited through our CDBG program. But if I could call my staff up real fast, please. Oh, they're right here. All right, good. Just give me a moment to introduce them because when I say what we do, it's these people who make it possible. Wow. Well, and I thank you. Thank you for allowing me this moment. I want to first introduce the person we call our mom around here. Miss Pat, is Miss Pat there? She is. She's our HUD certified housing counselor. And she's also standing in the place of Miss Chloe Williams, who is our director of housing counselor. Miss Pat cooks food and bring it in here, and Friday mornings are always fun. Miss Pat, thank you. Miss Dawn Mule, and I'll mention something about her. She's also our housing intake specialist working with housing counseling and our receptionist. I'm sorry. Thank you, Miss Dawn. One of our newest employees is Miss Candace Rice. She also works as a housing counselor in training, and she's also very, very effective and new to our team. We really like that. Ms. Jondre Jennings, most of you already know her. She's our Director of Real Estate Development. Mr. Rick Pearson is our Real Estate Development Specialist. I'll just go without the paper. Where's Ms. Azalee Fisher? She's our Director of Housing Counseling. Our Director of Community Resources. She has my old job. And she's very resourceful. She has more than 500 prom gowns for girls and 500 tuxedos for boys. Very resourceful, Ms. Azalee Fisher. Mr. Taiwan Rice is our community organizer and youth program coordinator. Mr. Pumphrey is in charge of the maintenance of all of our properties. And our newest employee is Mr. Vernon Streeter, who runs our reentry program. And step out a little bit so I can, there you go. Ms. Diana Dinkins is our reentry intake manager, case manager. So these are the people that help us get through what we need to do. Thank you all. Thank you all. Go back to work. Go back to work. Now, the most important people to me in this room, outside of my board and the mayor, are people who have really benefited from the program. And I just want to take a moment and introduce them, please. Lee, are you here? Yeah. Where? Can you come up so I can point at you and talk about you real fast? Oh, yeah, just come on up. Lee, he will allow me to tell this story, was one time, I hope I'm allowed to tell this story. He said I could say what I wanted to say. A drug dealer on our corners. And I went to him, and we went to him as an organization and said, you can do better. He came here, Mrs. Cornish employed him on our cleaning and boarding crew. He's now a Baltimore City employee. And a homeowner through Habitats for Humanity. So, CDBG, Community Development Block Grant. Thank you, sir. Oh, he wanted to introduce his new lovely wife. The lady that makes him so lucky. Stand up. There you go. All right, you got your minute. Thank you. Thank you. Another one is Miss Charlotte Tyers. Please, Miss Charlotte, she's not gonna, come on up here. Make her come up here, somebody. Well, at least stand so they know who I'm talking about. Yay, that's Miss Charlotte Tyers. She bought one of our Brunt Manor homes that we were able to build with the support of CDBG funds. And because of her love for this organization and her community, she's here every day feeding the children in our after-school program. That's the gift. Mr. Edward Grant, will you at least stand? He's another solid force. This gentleman, he's from the community. He purchased our first gateway home. Afterwards, he built our second and third, helped us build it. He now owns and operates New Baltimore Contractors. And his give back is every holiday he comes up here with more than 50 turkeys to give out to other families in the community, every holiday. Miss LaShawn Malsby and her mom. Oh, there they go. Where's mom? There's mom, Miss Hicks. They operate the daycare downstairs that served more than 12,000 young people in this community since being there. They take in children under 5 years old, and it's more than a daycare, it's a learning center, but also benefits through what we do. I just wanted to say in closing that the CDBG funding has really helped this organization move this community forward. We used to say we are a community on the rise. Well, guess what? We have risen. You know what I mean? And this community takes pride. The people in this community are here. You've been to the monthly community meetings. They're here, and they hold us accountable. So I'd like to thank the mayor for putting some emphasis on this. I'd like to thank all of you for keeping the emphasis on what we can do with community development block grant funding. And my only request is that you remember us even in the future, because we are risen. And now that we are a risen community, we believe that we can move forward as long as you got our back. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Anthony. And Anthony, you'll have some houses to sell in the very near future, too.
We
All
have
right?
some now.
Okay. That concludes. I think for those of you here who didn't know about the CDBG program, you've learned a lot about what this program is and who it helps, the organizations and the individuals, and how that knits together to help our larger city. So we want you to know, also, wouldn't have asked you here if we wouldn't have had some refreshments. So when we conclude at the end of the hallway, there will be some refreshments inside the community center. Also for reporters and attendees that are here, Anthony has kindly made the folks here that provide reentry programs, GED classes, housing counseling, and Druid Heights residents served by the programs available for interviews if folks want to have those conversations, either anyone attending here or members of the press corps. I think just to conclude on behalf of the mayor, and if you will, Madam Mayor, and the council president and the members of the council, and our federal representatives, this is our opportunity to thank you, everyone in this room. If you would just stand. Thank you guys so much for all the work that you do for Baltimore City and for this program that provides resources to help you do it. Thank you.